I have a job as a janitor in my hometown at the local church. Every night at about 8 p.m. I go there to clean the floors of filth. The church is quite big and well decorated. There are paintings of saints on the walls and glass paintings on the ceiling. On January 15, 1998, I went to the church to clean and stuff. And normally it isn't that dark at 8 p.m., but it's January, so it is quite dark. Anyway, once I got there I felt a weird aura. I ignored the strange feeling and went inside. I went through the entrance hall to the main hall and turned on the big, electric chandelier that lit up the main hall. Earlier there was a festival at the church celebrating the birthday of some saint. So as expected it was quite filthy in the church. I'm not a big believer in religions, but I'm fascinated by them. After a few minutes, I went to grab the mop in the back room. I felt the same eerie feeling like someone is behind me. I looked behind and to my shock there was nothing. Once I finished mopping the floors I went into the back room to put the mop away. I heard a voice from the main hall. It was deep and growly. It said, "I know you're somewhere, and when I find you, I will end you." I was scared shitless. I closed the back room door in a hurry and called the police. The church didn't have a Wi-Fi connection. I was panicking. I quietly opened the back room door and hid behind a big statue of what looked to be Jesus. I thought to myself, did I offend someone so badly they want me dead? No, couldn't be. Everyone said I was the nicest guy in town. The voice spoke again. "I swear to God, if I find you I'll rip you to shreds." I was panicking so badly. In an act of desperation I went to the back room not caring if I was loud and trapped the mop. Now I at least had a weapon, not a very strong one at that, but it was better than nothing. Then it clicked, the deep growly voice. I know this guy. He is the well-known serial killer from my town, the Redwood Killer they called him. And his voice is exactly the same as his surviving victims claimed to sound like. My heart was racing, but at least I knew who he was. Luckily I knew a second way out of the church that isn't as obvious as the main entrance. But it was about 10 meters from the back room. Which isn't a problem until you realize you are being chased by a bloodthirsty serial killer. I made a quick run for it, and to my absolute horror the Redwood Killer was right behind me. My heart was racing as I ran down the hall as fast as I could. "You're not getting away." I ran to the exit and slammed the door, which gave me a slight advantage. I locked the door and heard, "Slam, slam, I will get you." I ran out the door to my car, but when I saw him running out the main door I jumped into my car, shattering the window in the process. But I didn't care. I drove away to the police station and reported what I experienced. And that marks this day as the scariest in my life. When I was as young as the age of 5, I witnessed my father beat my oldest sister frequently. It would happen so often that there wasn't a time in my childhood where I would remember him not doing it. Years went by, and I developed a fear of being taken. I would dream about it almost every night and would frequently wet the bed. I didn't want to get out in fear I would get hurt. Years went by, and I got older and realized that fear I had was from watching my sister get beat for doing regular teenager stuff. When she would go out she would get in trouble, so I never wanted to leave the house. My dad would hit her so hard that she would bleed from the nose and would be covered in bruises and marks. Although she would always fight back, my dad treated her like if she was another man, like she wasn't his. Years went by and my sister is now 25, living in her own apartment with her husband. I am now 15 and still live with my parents. Although my father has never once hit me, I am scared of him. I oftentimes avoid him. The most I ever talked to him was a good morning or a good night. My oldest sister was able to move on and talks to my dad like it nothing ever happened, even though she cries every time we talk about what happened. She's never see a therapist, and I think she should go. She has developed major mood swings, and I think she may have some kind of mental disorder from what she endured. I secretly blame my mom for what happened to my sister for not divorcing my father. It's not like he treated my mom any better. I always tell my mom that she could have done so much more to stop my dad, and her response was, "You didn't help either." Which was a lie. I remember one time it was nighttime and me and my oldest sister shared a bed. My dad came in with a belt to hit her, and I used my body to shield hers. That stopped my dad from hitting because he would make it clear he favored me over my other sisters. And my mom just stood behind him watching. And my parents are still together. I don't like to say it, but I don't like my dad much, but I still love him because he's my dad, but I wish he was better, kind. Long ago, there was an elderly woman named Clara Mae Brown. She had very little family left, never met a nice man and never married, no nieces or nephews visiting her or having to be with her at all. One day she had been assigned a caretaker at the nursing homes she had been in, honestly was more of each one getting their own little box house and letting visitors or family in. Her helper was named Mariana Anaya, a young mom who had been the breadwinner of the household in a toxic relationship with her husband. Clara was really just happy to at least get some company for once, to help her bathe and help her around the place a little. Sometimes she saw Marie, as if she were a daughter she wished she would have had, even agreeing to have her bring Marie's own children to come and listen to her stories. She loved them right away, all 4 little girls each 2 years apart from one another. When Marie had to be assigned to another patient, she still let the girls visit Clara whenever they go on Tuesdays. Those Tuesdays, Clara would consider small snacks and box juices to be a dinner for the girls, calling them with saying "Lil ones, dinner's all ready." And they would respond with "Coming, Grandma." They were like the little grandchildren she had hoped for, all gifted and interested in baking like she was. She told them stories about how she can make banana bread that's moist, and how her pudding at bake sales would fly off the tables till none was left. She had given Marie her recipe basket to let the girls bake, and an old clock with a gold label with her name. Each hour it shall chime a song for the girls, to remember her from home. One night, she was baking a special cake for the youngest girl, knowing her birthday was near, when suddenly fire filled along her kitchen and her oven bursts, the flames burning everything in their path, including poor Clara Mae. Nothing was left but pots and clay pans, which were also given to Marie and her family. The girls, saddened by the news, only really baked her recipes, which they soon shared with their little ones as time goes on to remember her by. Though, many nights every Tuesday night, her ghost would call out to each of them to head down to dinner. She would appear in their reflections with a morning look to her face, and when the oldest girl's child woke, she only saw a slightly charred woman on whose eyes glowed like flames in a candle, smiling at her softly. This happened again and again for years till one day Marie's oldest daughter was about to have her 3rd child, which she decided to name after Clara Mae Brown. As the girl was born, Marie's oldest daughter seen one last glimpse of Clara Mae Brown, but as she was before the fire, smiling and mouthing "I love you," before fading and never being seen again. But every Tuesday or Thursday night, the song in her clock still chimes, and the 3rd child hums along. I used to work at a Subway back in my old town. It was small but easy. I took night shifts because it was easier for me since I was a night owl. I had one other person working with me, but they were always on cleaning duty, so they always stayed in the back room. One night a lady walked in with her 2 twins. I know her because she would come in with her 2 twins and get the same thing every time. She comes in and puts the order in. I began to make the order while they stood there and watched me make it. This time it was weird, though I had a feeling like my stomach dropped, and so I told them we ran out of a sauce and went to the back room to where my co-worker had fallen asleep. I tried to wake him up, but failed, and so I went back out. She was looking dead in my eyes. She didn't have an expression, nor did she blink. I looked over the 2 twins and they just grinned at me. I got chills all over my body and goosebumps. I quickly made them their sandwiches and took the payment. Once they got to the door to leave, the lady looked over her shoulder and smiled wide. She left right after. After that day I left my work and moved in with my parents in a different town. I'm never going back there again. So me and 3 more friends decided to go explore an abandoned house. So we were on the hallway and we saw a painting on a frame, and my friend had the great idea to get the foot of a chair and hit the painting with it. After him doing it 3 times, the front painting fell, and there was a picture of a little girl behind it. Also in the same house some months after, we found out that a homeless guy lived in there. Turns out it wasn't a simple homeless guy, it was a guy that escaped the prison and had a lot of health problems. There was a door that we didn't had never open, honestly id quite. So having nothing to do with the homeless guy, a week after finding out he lived there, we decided to kick the door. One of my friends was a guy and the other 2 were girls. It was one of the girls that kicked it. When she did that, she fell on the floor and the homeless guy was holding her. My friend managed to get the girl, and the 2 girls got in their bikes and went to the nearest supermarket and just waited for us to go there. While they were running, me and my friend tried to punch the homeless guy and stuff. We both ended up getting stabbed with his knife. Nothing serious, so only me and the friends that were there know about this. BTW, we still go to that house to chill and stuff, because the homeless guy never went there again. The things are always how we left them. That's my story, tell you.